Hello guys, welcome back to another video today with ARC Exotics, and in this video we're going to still be doing a reptile orientated video, but it's going to be a little bit more of a question and answer. Little things like what's my actual name and a few other stuff, but most of them are reptile related. So other than that, let's get into this week's video. So the first question is from Emmie Smith 0411, and her question is, what do you like least about keeping reptiles? And I couldn't say, oh, there's loads of things, because there's really not, but if I had to pick something, then it would probably be, well, I was going to say clean and poop, but there's something that annoys me worse than that, and that is actually cleaning glass. Trying to get glass not water stained and having a nice finish on the tank really annoys me, because you'll clean it all, you'll smooth it all over, do everything you should to make it look nice and smooth. You do one spray of the tank the following day, because of the heat under it, and it's water stained instantly. And I feel like it's just a never ending battle. So that's what I hate the most. And if you guys have any tips on how to keep your tanks nice and clean, glass tanks when you're spraying them, then let me know and you can help me and maybe a few others. So the next question is from Bugs Home, and the question is, how many praying mantis do you have and what species? So I've currently got one of each species I'm about to list. The first one I got was a giant Asian mantis, who is getting pretty big now as well. He's just recently come out of a molt. And then I got 3 in one go from the Live Food Hub, who I've mentioned before in previous videos. So I got a ghost mantis, a flower mantis, and a giant African mantis. So yeah, I've now got 4 in total, and hopefully I'll be adding a few more to the collection soon. Now with the next one, no offence, but I have no idea how to pronounce the name, so I'm not even going to try and pronounce it, I'll just put it on the screen. And the question is, what is your favourite animal? So they said animal, not reptile, so this isn't going to be a reptile, even though I love loads. Just my favourite animal in general is a rhino. Don't ask me why, I've just always liked them as a kid. I think they're pretty cool. How can an animal with 2 massive horns on their nose not be cool? Do you know what I mean? Run super fast and have super thick skin, and yeah, rhinos. So Nathan Keogh is with the next question, saying, how did you start getting into keeping reptiles? Now if there is a photo from way back, I'll try and find it. I did post it on my Instagram a few weeks ago. I think it was me holding my first corn snake shed, and I was in my like little pants, like boxer shorts. But anyway, how did I first get into keeping them? I basically kept the common stuff like sort of goldfish and hamsters and stuff like that. And when going into the pet store to get supplies for them, I just then come across all of the colourful exotic stuff, and when you see that as a kid, you're like, wow, and you just can't stop looking. And for me, the thing I loved most about it was, and I still do it to this day as well, is going into a pet store and you're not sure what's in there, and you're sort of like looking around trying to see what's in there and that. And that's like the excitement of where it comes from, like trying to find what was in the tank and what colours they were, and if it was a lizard, a snake, a frog. And it's just a wide variety of, like, this whole street that I live in, probably only me and who knows, maybe one other person keeps reptiles, do you know what I mean? Or maybe 3 or 5, you know, you don't know, but they're not a common sort of thing to be kept. And I like that, it's unique, you know, it's not, everyone's got a dog in my street, probably 90% of the people in my street have got dogs, but reptiles, probably 5%, and that's what I like, it's just different. So another one from the same guy, basically saying, what age was I when I got my first reptile and what was it? Well, this is a bit of a sad story actually. So my first reptile I only ever had for a day, but it was the same species as my one after. So basically on Christmas Eve, for Christmas, I was getting a corn snake. And this was me and my parents being 100% novices and not knowing nothing, and receiving bad advice from a pet shop as well. And we basically got a very, very small, healthy, but small, because it was a baby, corn snake. and set him up on Christmas Eve, come down on Christmas Day to look at my new snake. I was so excited, and I just couldn't find him, and I was like, where has he gone? Looked everywhere, took everything out, just looked everywhere. You know, I thought he's got to be in there somewhere, he can't get out, it's not possible. And I messaged the pet shop for some advice, and he was in a wooden enclosure, and he got out of the two slats in the glass that slide across each other, squeezed between them, and he was never seen again. So yeah, that's quite sad, and that is 100% my fault. Regardless of anything, that was my fault. But yeah, that's quite sad. Whether he made it or not, you don't know, and it does happen, especially to novices. So it's just one of the things you sort of got to take on the chin. So after weeks of trying to find him, doing all of the stuff you should do, like laying traps and stuff like that, you know, he was little as well, so they go where he is, so he could have gone under the floorboards or anything. He was never found. And then about a month later, I got another corn snake, and kept this one safe and alive and well. And yeah, that's where it all started. The corn snake was my first reptile. Oh, I'm not sure on the age neither. I was going to cut the video then, but I forgot half the question. No idea how old I was then, but I'd like to know just as much as you. So the next question is from CF_reptiles, saying, what is your dream job? Now, I was going to do a video about this in the future, but in much more detail, but for now, briefly, I'd like to work in a zoo. You know, dream realistic job is a zoo. That is the closest thing you can get to proper reptile care, unlike reptile shops and stuff like that, where it's not really proper care and husbandry for them 90% of the time. So yeah, the realistic aim for myself would be a zoo, but looking at that and what that requires and qualifications and A-levels and stuff like that, there's not a lot in here, so that's probably out the window, but who knows. So the next question is from Amy Exotics, saying, what are the future plans for the animals? So I've got one of the line day geckos there, who is the female. Just had a bioactive tank, doing really well, roots are growing in good, so she's basically sorted. She's got 3 lights over the top of her, she's done. I'm actually at the minute in the process of getting a specialist to build Gus the leopard tortoise an outdoor enclosure for the summer that we've got coming up. So here in the UK in a couple months, well, about a month, we'll hopefully have some nice weather. So I'm in the process of that getting built, so that should be pretty good, and I'll do a video on that as well. So hopefully he won't have to spend all day on the tortoise table in here, because he loves being outside and grazing on all the weeds. I'm doing exactly the same as what I've done to that tank there, to this tank here, which is the male line day gecko that I had to split up from the female. So he'll be getting fully bioactive, decked out, all stuff like that, live plants. And as will Rolo, which is our longer serving member back there, the kind of darker tank, he'll be getting it as well. So all tanks are going bioactive. And other than that, I think as far as sort of plans that I know myself I'm going to do, I think that's it for now. Also, another question from Amy Exotics is, would you get into small rodents and furries? Yes, I would actually. To be fair, like before reptiles, like I said to you in the previous ones that I got asked, I actually used to have a lot of hamsters. I think I've kept about 3, I want to say. And they are the best little pets to have ever, especially if you're a kid as well. I think they're really cool. The only thing, a massive downside to them is the lifespan. And when you're a kid, having a furry animal die is really upsetting. And that upset me every single time. And after that, I was like, not for me, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean? It's quite upsetting. I understand it's just their lifespan, but it's just, you know, it's not something that, you know, is very nice to deal with. But I would like to keep ferrets and rats. I've heard rats have got a really good personality. You can really train them and tame them. So rats I'd love to do, and same as ferrets as well. I've heard they've got a great personality, and they sleep quite a lot of the day, so it is convenient for someone who's working a normal sort of lifestyle. But other than that, that's about all I've sort of done when it comes to that. But yeah, it's something I've definitely looked to doing in the future. So we have another 2 questions from Amy Exotics. Now, because I'm trying to remember them on my phone because I'm recording on that. One of them was, what is your next reptile? Now, I was thinking about another crested gecko, potentially a lily white or something along the lines of that. I'm not 100% sure yet. I don't want something with too much electric because this room is like a sauna. Every time I come in here I feel like I'm in Spain, so that's not the best thing when you're trying to sleep as well, especially when it's hot in the UK outside of the room. But yeah, next reptile, realistically, I couldn't tell you at the minute. There's a few things on the radar, but I'll keep that secret for now. We'll have to see. I would like a sort of frog species, but again, in this room, if they're croaking, then that can be quite a disturbance as well. So that wouldn't be a massive thing on my list. But then I would like to keep something like dart frogs, Amazon milk frogs, green tree frogs. You know, there's a lot of frogs that I'd actually like to keep. I think they're quite interesting as well. So yeah. And the next question from her was, what is your name? My name is... So we have another question from Nathan Keogh saying, what is your opinion on spider ball pythons? I was actually looking at one, not to buy, actually looking as in holding it, feeding it the other day. And yeah, it's quite disturbing really. I was trying to feed him on tongs and I was dangling it and he was constantly striking above my hand, above the actual mouse, above the tweezers and above my hand, trying to get a sort of palm area here. And I just couldn't target feed at all, just couldn't lock on to a specific target at all. Took about, as a mate of mine, it took about 4 minutes to actually feed it in the end, 4 or 5 minutes, because it was just constantly overstretching and it just couldn't register where the food was. So yeah, it was quite sort of disappointing to see. It's actually the first one I've ever actually seen myself. I kept as a pet, do you know what I mean? And yeah, I understand, it can happen with anything to an extent. Obviously it's much more proven to happen with them, but as far as breeding goes, I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't suggest it, I'd never push it or promote it. It's just, you've got all these hundreds, thousands of morphs out here in the world, so why try and push on something that isn't right for the animal? Like, don't be so selfish, there's other morphs that you can push for, do you know what I mean? So, and it's not me targeting no one in general. I know a lot of people in the hobby do keep spiders, and I understand they can be completely fine, but why take the risk if you know it won't be, or potentially couldn't be? But that's just my opinion. That's what this channel is for. I speak my mind, I say what I think, and that is what I think. And I don't think it should be a thing. I don't think it should be allowed to breed them, and then the species or the morph would just die out, and then that would be the end of it. But it's not as easy as that. So we've got another one from Nathan Keogh, so a big thank you to him and also Amy Exotics, because you sent me quite a few questions. His question was, what future reptiles would you like to get? I literally have an endless list, but the main things for me would probably be Aki monitors, because I've heard they've got such a good personality. Little things that I like about them is, like, you can put like treats in a box and they'll sort of figure out how to get into it and use their brain, do you know what I mean? There's like other things like crested gecko and that will just lunge and go nuts. But yeah, Aki monitors are something that really interests me. I think they're quite cool. I'm much more of a lizard guy than I am a snake guy, but yeah, I'd still like to keep a few smaller species of snake. I quite like the toffee hognoses, the Kenyan sandbobbers, they're pretty cool as well. But as far as actually on my list, I think Aki monitors is something that I definitely want to get next, because that's something that would continue to interest me. So this was from Joe Clark 3 saying, where do you sell all of your reptiles? Buy all of your reptiles, I don't really know too much what you mean. I don't know if you think I'm a breeder. I'm not. I'm a hobbyist. I just keep for pleasure. I don't breed anything, so I don't sell my reptiles. So another one from Cotswold Reptiles saying, what is your favourite reptile and why? Favourite reptile and why, probably be the Argentine black and white tegu. because, well, one, they're a lizard. I like lizards. Two, they get quite big and thick as well, not so much long but thick. I like that sort of big lizard look. They've got that, and also their feed and response is insane, and I think that's really cool. And I like the fact that you can give them a really varied diet, not just bugs from the pet store. You can give them meat and eggs, and you know, there's so much to give them. I think they're really cool, and one day hopefully we'll have one. So the next question is from Pablo SB1010. Sorry if the video looks a bit sort of like cut all the time, because after each answer I'm pausing it and then looking at the following question, because I'm doing it all through my phone. But next month or so that should hopefully change, so don't worry too much. But yeah, as far as that goes, his question was, I'm trying to remember it now, what inspired you to get into reptiles? So like I said really in the previous answers, they're just something that I was just passing by when I was in the pet store, and they just caught my eye, because why wouldn't they? They're colourful, they're bright. Obviously I was a kid back then, so how can that not catch your eye? Do you know what I mean? You see something in a tank, and in that tank, when you're looking at it, if you've got an imagination like mine, you think, wow, it's like a little jungle, and you think, wow, that's so cool. Imagine having a little sort of jungle in your room with something like that in it that hunts bugs and stuff. So yeah, that is just, you know, the whole something wild, but you know, that is captive bred obviously, but something that looks wild and acts wild, not something that you can get out and pet like a dog or a cat. So yeah. So another question from Pablo was, were you ever scared of reptiles? And thinking back, because obviously it's quite a while since I actually got into them, thinking back, I don't think I was, no. There's nothing that I think. I had a corn snake, that was my first reptile, I wasn't scared of that. Bearded dragon, you know, no, I weren't really scared of them. I think it was more inverts when I was a little bit younger. Stuff like, I mean, I kept a lot of stick insects when I was younger, but like spiders and that, they still give me like the shivers, like, whew. Like, I'm not, you know, like, I'd hold one, but I'm not a massive fan on them, if that makes sense. I'm not scared, maybe a little bit. So the next question is from Simply Reptilian, saying, if I had to keep one for the rest of my life, would I keep reptiles or inverts? And that's really tricky, they've put me on the spot. In my head I'm thinking of variety, what can have more variety, but in this room I could definitely stack a lot more inverts, so that might be good. But reptiles, there's so many species out there that I don't even know are out there yet. Do you know what I mean? It's the same with inverts, so there's so many that are just undiscovered or not widely kept. But that's really tricky. I'd have to say reptiles, just because they're bigger and I'm not the most sort of fragile person. I'm quite heavy-handed with stuff, even though I do have a lot of delicate lizards. You know, I'm not like, I don't swing them around by their tail, but I mean, when I'm holding a mantis, I feel like my hands are just too clumsy. I feel like I'm going to crush it. So yeah, I'd probably say reptiles for that fact. The next question is from Bethology, saying, what is the most fun and enjoyable reptile you've ever kept? I don't really know, that's a hard one, because I wouldn't have got them if I didn't enjoy them. So I enjoy all of them. And again, I wouldn't have got them if they just sort of didn't move much and I didn't see them. Meaning for me, that they're fun is part of the reason why I got them. For example, I got Rolo because, well, he's a rescue, but I got him because how crescent geckos not fun? Like, they do so many crazy things. Like, how many memes do you see about crescent geckos doing like crazy stuff? So they're fun. The day geckos are so cool to watch and fascinating, and that's something that is enjoyable. You could literally sit there and watch them for hours. Well, I could anyway. So in terms of that, I don't really know. I'm trying to think. I guess the reptile that gives me the most back as a person, as in interaction, is probably Gus the leopard tortoise. So I'd get home from work, he would be basking under the hot side, and the cold side is near the door. So I'd go into the door, like go through the door, and as soon as he would see me, he would come running across his tortoise table, or still does, come running across his tortoise table, over the water bowl, and straight up to me, and then I'll take my index finger and start stroking him on the head, and he'll just love it. He'll just put his head up and sort of keep pushing up like that, and he's basically like a dog. I'll just pet him until he's had enough. So yeah, that's pretty enjoyable. That's something that's quite nice, you know, that's something that's fun to do. So yeah, Gus. So another question I got, I'm not sure how to pronounce the name, but the question is basically day gecko or crested gecko. And for me, because I keep them both, that's another really tricky question. I feel bad. I feel like whatever I say, they can hear me. So I might have to say it quietly because I feel bad. I literally feel like they can hear me. So if I said day gecko, I feel like my crested gecko Rolo would be really disappointed. I don't think I can answer that one. Again, that's why I got them both, because I enjoy them. They've both got their pros, they've both got their cons. Well, I don't know, they don't really have any cons, to be fair. I just enjoy them. So guys, that is today's Q&A over. I'm not really sure how many questions I'll include. I got quite a lot of random ones as well, so I'm not sure if I'll chuck them in. I'll have to see how long the video comes out. I don't want to bore you too much talking because there's no reptiles in this video, and that's a main reason I normally click off videos when I don't actually see reptiles. When people just talk about them, it bores me a little bit. I like seeing them. I'm quite visual like that. So I'm going to try and sort of keep it quite short and simple and only answer the important ones, like what my name is. So other than that, thank you for all sending in your questions. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and if there is any more questions, then drop them down below and I'll get them answered. And I think I've covered everything. So thank you for watching the video. I'm glad you have enjoyed, and see you again for another one next week.